Oh! Hey movie buffs, how's it going? Today I'll be reviewing the 2016 film Passengers, directed by Morten Tyldum and released on 4K and Blu-ray combo by Sony/Columbia TriStar. I don't have a whole lot to say about the disc itself. The picture was good, it was clean, and I would expect that from a new release. It stars Christopher Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence, and they basically looked like plastic dolls. You can tell that the director tried to make them look as beautiful as possible. So I'm not sure if this is the makeup during the production or the lighting, or if they just really overcooked the noise reduction when they were transferring it. But they looked fake either way, and it was sometimes to the point that it was distracting. The sound was a Dolby Atmos mix, and that was decent, good levels, and nothing really drew attention to itself, good or bad, and so that's probably on itself is a good thing. I didn't find myself, changing the volume when somebody was talking versus other scenes when it was sound effects, so I appreciate that. As for extras, pretty much non-existent. This is a straight studio release, so they didn't provide anything in the way of extras. I can tell you that the menu seemed a little bit convoluted or confusing. So they show scenes and they show moments. And I thought one would maybe be deleted scenes, like just to, throw us a bone. But no, the scenes are actual chapters to which you can skip, like most other discs. The moments seem more like compilations of actors' highlights from the film. And honestly, by this point, I had zero interest and even less patience. So I just did a hard pass on all of it and moved on. As for the movie itself, it basically takes place on a spaceship that's headed to a faraway planet that we are colonizing. And it's got like 5,000 people on board in their sleep pods. And by some kind of error in the system, Chris Pratt's sleep pod wakes him up and he's by himself. And the ship is just heading out there. I think the ship has problems, so it's kind of a doomed mission. And that's kind of the setup. And really, for the first third of the movie, Chris Pratt is on his own, and that was pretty much the first problem. He's fine as a bimbo goof, like in Parks and Rec, and maybe some other things I've seen him in, but not nearly good or interesting enough to go a cappella like this and carry the whole show. He encounters an android as a bartender in an empty bar, and obviously the setting is straight out of The Shining. And in case you thought this was a mistake, Tyldum calls on The Shining again with this camera's motion when Pratt is trying to sledgehammer open the door to the cockpit so he can try to figure out what's going on with the ship. This development is actually a little bit unfortunate because it only highlights how weak Pratt is. Fair or not, I kept comparing him to, at this point especially, to Jack Nicholson, and how different this would have been with somebody interesting who was carrying it. At his lowest of lows, when he's basically given up all hope, he stumbles upon Jennifer Lawrence resting peacefully in her sleep pod. He's captivated by her immediately. He stalks her for a little bit, and he ultimately decides to wake her. It gets a little bit more engaging at this point as we watch their predictable yet doomed romance, leading up to that inevitable moment, the climax of the second act when she finds out the truth about why she's awake. But she's so much better than Pratt that, again, it only highlights how insufficient he is. And it actually finally brings a little bit of life and interest into the movie. And not a whole lot, but a little bit. The only other human we see, except for the guy who plays the android bartender, is Larry Fishburne, who shows up just long enough to give Pratt his ID bracelet, which will give Pratt access to fix the ship. Larry Fishburne, I think, was the captain of the ship's crew. But then he's gone. Just as quickly as he came, he's gone. And really, because in the year whatever, traveling at 50% of light speed, they need a bracelet, not retinal scan or a voice print or a fingerprint. They need a bracelet to open the cockpit door. That being said, Fishburne also delivers the only real poignant moment of the entire film or interesting bit of dialogue when he's talking to Jennifer Lawrence, and he compares Chris Pratt, waking her up and thereby essentially sealing her doom, to a drowning man who takes others down with him. It ain't right, but that man was drowning, Fishburne says. And that seems to get Jennifer Lawrence over the hump and back into, forgiving and hooking up with Chris Pratt again. By the end, they somehow know just about everything they need to know about how to save this listless space resort, except maybe how to get back to sleep. That's a little bit of interest at the end. I mean, to them, not to me. By this point, I'd given up. And that's pretty much it. There's almost no story at all. Chris Pratt periodically tries to bust open the command door, like I mentioned before, with the whole shining sledgehammer bit. But other than that, he barely even tries to figure out a solution or figure out how to save the ship. There's no character development, no insight. The flat Earth dialogue has, really questionable lines like, "So we're stranded on a sinking ship." The sci-fi aspect doesn't even show or try anything new. If you've seen any, Alien or even 2001, those both had a lot more interest in that category than this one does. The production design was pretty cool, though it's mostly form over function. Again, they're supposed to hold 5,000 passengers in sleep pods, impossibly spread out and spacious, but some of the larger sets are still impressive, if, still preposterous. If they're bringing supplies to build out colonies, you'd think that every single cubic foot of that ship would be utilized. But no, they've got wide open spaces. It's a big, almost like a mall. The coolest thing in the movie, and this goes to the production design though, is it does have the closest thing we'll ever see to a literal infinity pool. And I appreciated that. It was cool. And it was also interesting in that same set to see what happens when somebody is swimming when the gravity goes out. Overall, this was pretty much a letdown. I knew there'd be a goofy romance I wouldn't care too much about, but I was also kind of hoping for just a little bit more sci-fi to get geeked out about, maybe along the lines of The Martian. I didn't expect it to be that good, but I expected maybe a little bit more effort in that vein. But there was nothing, and that's disappointing given Morten Tyldum's previous works like The Imitation Game and The Criminally Underseen Headhunters. Track that one down if you can. It's excellent. So my final rating is a 5 out of 10. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like. If you enjoy my channel's content, feel free to give me a subscribe and come back and check out some other videos. If you have something to say, by all means, drop it in the comments. I'll try to respond to everybody, and I would love to start a conversation. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.